And we also saw the hyper volatility across the precious metal space last week that really culminated in Friday's massive sell-off across, gold, silver, all of the precious metals. You can see silver was actually down. It lost at one point at the lows of the day more than a third of its market cap. And I think silver probably is actually heading for $50 per share. That's the SLV ETF, that is. I think SLV is probably headed for at least about $50 per share. So let me go ahead and start breaking down the technicals and kind of give you my case of why I think that's going to be the case. So as you can see here in the chart, we have a lot of different technicals pulled up. So we can see that SLV here, this is something we've been telling our followers and clients for quite some time now, but we've been saying that this move in silver, while it has been a very powerful move, there's been a lot of people chasing it. It's gotten very, very overextended. We can see that with SLV's move here through much of December as it was really starting to gain some momentum. And then, of course, for much of this past month in January, you can see SLV has just remained above this upper Keltner channel. That's our upper blue line right here. It's been trading above that upper Keltner channel for pretty much 2 months straight. And at some points during that, well extended even above that upper Keltner channel. So these are just classic signs of trend exhaustion and, getting very, very overextended, kind of a white hot trend. And that, ultimately market forces are going to begin to play a factor when you see a really speculative run up in the market like this. Inevitably there's going to be some profit taking that happens. And once that first shoe drops, it's only a matter of time before other people start, taking their profits to take their risk off the table. And it kind of culminated into a huge blow off top move like we saw on Friday. And it truly is a really classical move that, has all the signs of a blow off top. We can see that, again, we were very extremely overextended here on the chart to the upside. It was really needing a chance to pull back, kind of take a breather in this trend, and it really never did. It was really only kind of going up, and there were really not too many down days really over the past 2 months. So anytime you get a trend that is forming like that, that always kind of warrants some caution to us because we know, anytime, a stock or ETF, whatever the asset is, whatever the asset price, whenever it goes vertical and goes parabolic like this, generally we always know how these trends end, and exactly what happened on Friday is typically how these things end. The saying goes that when you see things going parabolic like this, they typically take the escalator up and they take the elevator down. And this couldn't be a more clear picture of that here. You can see this just, vertical takeoff, this parabolic uptrend, is getting very, very overextended, very overbought. A lot of hot and fast money chasing it, a lot of retail money chasing this trend here. You can see that clearly down here in these volume bars as well, just some massive volume spikes. Particularly just this past week, you can see some huge swings in volume that, ultimately culminated in 2 huge selling days, taking some de-risking here in Thursday and Friday session that ultimately led to the speculative fever popping in Friday's trading. Now, following Friday's move and, where SLV actually closed here, this silver ETF is actually now in an official bear market. It's actually a little more than 28% off of its high. So, approaching, a 30% decline from the all-time highs that were set really just 2 trading days ago prior to that. So that's just a very, very sharp move, just massive, massive amounts of market cap erased really across the entire silver space, not just with here, of course, with the SLV ETF. So, you can see that there was a lot of money starting to chase this trend late, hopping in late as this thing was already really overextended to the upside. So that's why we were warning our followers, to be very, very weary of this trend. If they were in early and have been holding for a long, long time, we were saying, well, congrats, that's a great job on the great trade there. Obviously, really got the benefit from this huge momentum swing here. But, we were saying for, any people that were looking at the trend, in the past really couple months, we were saying, hey, this pullback, it's far, far overdue, and it's going to come, very, very quick when it happens. And, again, that's exactly what we had in Friday's trading. And as I said earlier, I really don't think that the decline in silver and really across the precious metal space, I don't think that it's done. I think there's still some more room to fall to the downside. Again, we had outside bearish day. You can see that on Thursday right here. We had this really wide day, huge swing in Thursday's trading. We finished marginally down, so that's an outside down day right there. That typically is a classical technical marker of a trend reversal. So that kind of was, seeing silver kind of ring the bell at the top right there, saying, hey, there's a lot of selling going on. There's a lot of people trying to take some risk off the table. And then, of course, added to some headlines we got on Friday and a dollar rally, that really just accelerated accelerated this to the downside, and that just massive decline we saw in Friday's trading. And again, I think there's further to the downside to go. Where I am looking for silver to probably find its first level of support is actually if you look back to some of the highs of last year before we finally got this newest inflection in late November and December. So if you look after we had the huge rally already going in silver last year, you can see it was, overbought for quite a bit of time here. There was a lot of volume chasing into it. We got this huge volume spike, and right after that, that's where it found, finally some resistance right here. It's just below 50. So I think somewhere in that 50 to about $48 range, right around in that $2 range right there is where I think silver is probably going to find its first really key solid floor of support below the stock, because that's where it found resistance twice prior before finally breaking out here, as you can see, as it did in the final couple trading days of November there. So you can see here at this kind of blow off top that it had in mid-October of last year. We had a huge volume spike, just like we had recently. And just following that volume spike, we had some really heavy selling days, had a big pullback, and it just consolidated sideways for a bit. And so you can see, we found the resistance previously right there, about 48 or so dollars per share for SLV. You can see it consolidated, traded up. It failed again at that level at 48 roughly, and then continued to consolidate here. And then finally it traded back up to it once more and finally broke through in late November. And of course, that is when this latest round of speculative fervor really kicked off. Really seeing a lot of, hot, fast money chase this trade to the upside. And that's really what a lot of this was. It was just a huge momentum chase. The retail chase was on, and it was just, a huge speculative fueled rise here. And again, you just saw a lot of the air come out of that balloon in last week's trading. So, there's really not much support, below this current price level until you get down to this level. Just looking at past price action, that is really, where the first key level of support is going to come into play. So I think that we could see SLV actually continue to fall. It's currently trading about $75, just a touch over that right now. That was the closing price on Friday. I think we could see another third shaved off of that value easily within the next couple of weeks. So, that's kind of what I'm keeping an eye on. I don't currently own this. It's not a trade that I was trading. It's not, just my technical analysis rules. I have a rules-based technical system. That's what we do here at Markham Trading. And, when we see something that is this overextended, like I said, we were warning our followers to be very weary about this trend because we knew a blow up like this was very possible. And so, it's not one that we were holding. If I was holding it, I would probably be, looking to just hold it and maybe sell some upside calls and just collect some call premium, or even potentially look to buy some puts to have some protective puts, in case this continues to fall to the downside, because I think ultimately that's what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks play out. So, hey, if you like this video, I'd really like to get your opinion of what you think silver in the precious metal space is going to do in the next couple weeks and couple months to come. So go ahead and put that in the comments. Give us a like. Go ahead and give our page a follow. We'd really appreciate it. But yeah, I want to go ahead and hear what you think. I think silver's probably going to go ahead, at least the SLV ETF here. I think it's probably going to go ahead and at least fall back down to $50 per share, if not further. I think there could be even some more downside selling below that. But that's just that first key support level to watch that I think is going to be really crucial to hold. But I'm really interested to hear what you think is going to happen. Just go ahead and post it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.